Hey, Tyson, what's up? Avry here. How you doing tonight, man?
Good. How are you, bud?
I'm doing fantastic, Tyson. I gotta ask you, man. Before getting into the Phoenix talk, what do you do? What do you do on Tuesday night, Tyson? What do you do when there's no hockey to watch, man?
Well, I got three kids, so there's not a whole lot of hockey being watched right now. But once they hit the sack, I'll be belly up in front of the TV.
Like a great night, Tyson. I know, being an analyst, I know one thing about you, Tyson. You're one of the more vocal guys on Twitter. You're hilarious. But I have to ask you, Tyson, what the heck does it mean to comb your hair with a pork chop? Because I have absolutely no clue what that means.
Well, if you ever seen my hair, you know it's a little bit greasy, and in order to get that grease look, you got to go with a greasy food group. And I figured a pork chop is as good as any to get that hair slicked back nice and tight.
It's funny, man. That's like really funny. Of course, Tyson, I know the Coyotes right now, and think of a playoff race right now. What does it mean to have this team so close to being a playoff spot and being led by guys like Mike Smith and Mikhail Bodker, and of course Shane Doan, still playing well as he gets older in his NHL career, Tyson?
Well, obviously we had a tough loss last night. There's no sugarcoating that, that's for sure. So a very small margin for error now. Really, there is no margin for error. They got to win the next six straight if they want to get to that 55-point mark, which is kind of the number that everyone thinks is going to be the number to get that eighth seed. So it's no easy task, but great leadership in this locker room. Obviously, they've made the playoffs the last 3 years in a row. So there's a lot of confidence that they can draw off of because of what they've done the last 3 years. Losing in the Western Conference Finals last year was huge for this team. They really learned a lot about themselves and about themselves as a team as well. So hopefully they can draw from that and put a run together because that's what they'll need.
No, of course, you mentioned last year being in the conference final. I mean, what would it like to be with that team? I said earlier on my show, that was the first series win since they're back in Winnipeg in '86. What would it like to be in that team that won so many series and just had a magical summer that year, Tyson?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, just because of what this team has gone through as far as ownership goes, and just all the adversity off the ice. It's hard enough to play the game of hockey, let alone having to worry about all the distractions, with the business side of it. So, this team, they were very proud of what they accomplished, and it just goes to show you again, once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. You look at LA; they went all the way. Phoenix went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and I don't think anyone could have expected Phoenix to do what they did, just with their roster, with all like I said, the ownership issues surrounding the team. So this team, it was one of the best stories in all of pro sports, if you ask me.
No, it incredibly wasn't. Of course, now looking at this year, I know I mentioned the goaltending. You have Mike Smith. He's had a great year, but he's been hurt a little bit. Jason LaBarbera and Chad Johnson. What would it like to have a team that has three goalies that at any time can go in the net and steal you a game when called upon by Dave Tippett?
Well, that's what makes this team fun to follow, fun to watch as a fan, just because it's fun to play on. You talk to the players, and they don't have any superstars, so they count on everybody to get the job done. Everyone in a win, it plays a big role in that win. And everyone in a loss, takes a lot of accountability on their shoulders because, again, when you don't have superstars, you count on everyone. That makes it a real fun environment to play in, and that's what this team is all about. Nothing ever comes easy for this squad, but I think as a player, that's what you love. You strive for that, and it's fun to be a part of. You really find out a lot about yourself.
Now, of course, you mentioned there's no superstars. I mean, it really has been on offensively scoring by committee because you've had Martin Hansel 20 points, David Moss, Ekman Larson. I mean, to have so many guys in 20 points in a shortened season has to feel good going into the postseason when you can get points coming from anybody on this roster.
Yeah, well, again, it's secondary scoring is never more important than on this Coyotes team. They don't have that real big powerhouse, a Sidney Crosby or a Taylor Hall. They got guys like Shane Doan and Mikhail Bodker and Martin Hanzal, as you mentioned, and they really need a lot of guys to overachieve. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case this year. They really haven't had a real standout player besides maybe Keith Yandel as a defenseman with 9 goals, 24 points. Keith Yandel's been the MVP by my standards.
No, I gotta agree with you on that. And on the blue line, I look at Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's been developing so much. 21 points this year, 3 goals, 18 assists. Could he be a Norris Trophy candidate one day, do you think, Tyson?
I do. I think that, when any player that draws comparisons to Nicholas Lidstrom, I think you have to throw his name eventually in the Norris Trophy, sentence. I mean, this is a guy that he's just so efficient, the way he skates, the minutes that he plays in every situation. This kid, he still feels like he's not playing his best hockey. So I can't wait to see the finished product out of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's a fun player to watch, and he's so young. You forget that he's only 21 years old.
No, of course. What is it about Sweden do you think that's producing so many great defensemen? Of course, Nick Lindstrom, and of course, I'm only 20 years old, but I know Borges Salmik. What is it about that country that's produced so many good defensemen? Do you think, Tyson?
I don't know what it is, to be honest. It's a mystery to me, but you look at Oliver and he draws. So I don't know. I'm not a big comparison guy, just because I don't think it's fair to Oliver to have those comparisons for a guy that's won 7 Norris trophies. He's probably one of the best defensemen to ever play the game. So I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but there are definitely some similarities in the way they play.
No, most definitely. Of course, I know with Dave Tippett right now, after the whole Gretzky era, he comes in and he's brought this team back to being a playoff team. Like, what is it like to have a coach like Dave Tippett who knows what it's like to win before? He's won in Dallas, to have a coach who's level-headed. Like, what does it mean to have him behind the bench of this club?
Well, he's everything for this team. You look what he's done ever since Wayne Gretzky left. He's done nothing but win and get the team out of the playoffs. And if you ever look at our roster, I scratch my head some nights just because Don Maloney, his hands are tied. There's a budget in place, a very restricted budget, just because we have no owner. So you can't go out and spend money. You can't lure free agents. So you kind of get the misfits from around the league, and you have to develop your draft picks, and you have to make sure that they can contribute. And that's what Dave Tippett does. And it's incredible when I see and I hear managers or coaches complain about their rosters. Dave Tippett, has made more out of this roster, and is by far the best coach I have ever seen on a day-to-day basis.
And I have to agree with you on that, Tyson. Of course, if this team can get in and they can leapfrog Dallas and Columbus, how cool would it be to say the Coyotes were the team that ended the Red Wings' 22-year streak of being in the playoffs? I mean, that'd be an accomplishment in itself, in my mind.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Detroit is sitting there at that 8th spot. I thought it was going to be Minnesota that was going to fall out of it, but they had a big win the other night, and I jumped right back into the mix again. So, right now the Coyotes are just trying to worry about themselves and make sure they take care of business. And like I said, a big loss the other night really hurt their chances. So they know they have to be perfect the rest of the way. They got to go 6-0. No margin for error, but they're up for the challenge.
Now, of course, you mentioned the loss against San Jose. They lose 4-0 to the Sharks in Rafi Torres' return. Now they take on St. Louis, of course. With this season you're only playing within your conference, games against teams in your own division become that much more important now.
Yeah, and I guess the unfortunate part is that they only have one more game against Detroit. You'd love to have 2 or 3, as crazy as that sounds, but that's really the only way that you can really leapfrog a team at this point, just because every game is a 2, 3, 4 point game. So it seems like every night the teams the Coyotes are chasing are going to overtime, and they end up being 3-point games. So it's very frustrating. But again, when you lose 7 games in a row like the Coyotes did in a 48-game season, it just limits your chances that much more. It's tough to really come back from that.
No, of course, it definitely is tough. And well, Tyson, man, it's been a blast having you on. Of course, I have to ask you one last question, dude. Like, you're probably the best dresser I see on TV. Like, where do you come to have these suit ideas you wear? Like, dude.
I say, when you have a face like mine, you got to distract the audience from the big nose and focus more on the shirts and ties. But I enjoy what I do. I love it. It's the next best thing to playing. I don't get beat up anymore. It's still a part of the game. And talking about hockey, what more can a guy ask for?
No, exactly. And now, Tyson, being on my show, you're not in a club joined by Jimmy Rivers and Jason Strutter to be on my show. So congrats to you, Tyson.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
No problem, Tyson. Talk to you soon, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tyson Nash, from the Phoenix Coyotes broadcast team down in Arizona. Great stuff. Funny guy. His nose isn't that big, so I don't know why he always makes fun of it that much with the gonzo profile pics and stuff. Oh boy, anyway, that's all she wrote for this.